Learn how to use the words keen, eager, and enthusiastic in English in this episode of
Aprender Inglés con Reza y Craig.
Hi, I'm Reza.
And my name's Craig.
And with nearly 50 years of teaching between us, we are going to help you improve your English and take it to the next level. How are you, Craig?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm keen and very eager and extremely enthusiastic to be podcasting with you this week. How are you?
Oh, well, first of all, I love your eagerness. I really feel that you're dying to get going. Me too. I'm really looking forward to recording this podcast. Above all, because it's the third one we've recorded today and I want to finish.
You're getting hungry.
Yes, I want that lunch.
First this week, we have a voice message from Alba, all the way from Argentina.
Hi, Reza and Craig. I'm Alba. I'm from Argentina. I'm connecting because I'm really grateful for your podcast. You're amazing. You make English learning very easy and fun. I love your sense of humor, actually. I'm a veterinarian and a researcher also. I enjoy your podcast about veterinarian terminology. I had the opportunity to work in the States a couple of times. And I don't have any problems with my reading, listening, and even speaking with my colleagues. But I found very difficult to talk about other things. I mean, when I try to socialize out of work. I'm translating from Spanish to English and vice versa all the time in my head. And that makes me feel really insecure. After the pandemic, I'm going to California to work in a lab. And I need your advice to improve my speaking and be more confident there. So that's all. Thank you very much and please keep on podcasting. Bye-bye.
Lovely to hear from you, Alba. And yes, we do intend to keep podcasting, so no worries there. And we loved your message. You speak wonderful English, so well done. We do have a couple of podcasts that might help you with your question about feeling more comfortable with social situations. Go listen to episode 77. We spoke about how to start a conversation and make small talk in English. So that's inglespodcast.com/77. And also Beyond the English Language has some interesting information. That's inglespodcast.com/312. Reza, over to you.
Yes, I agree with Craig, Alba. That was a very good message and your pronunciation was very clear. Except one little thing I wasn't quite sure about, but it could be because you slipped into Spanish. Is it possible? I think you said and then I thought I heard I'm a veterinaria. It may be the audio quality or something, but that's what I thought you said. I'm a veterinaria. In English, of course, that would be I'm a vet or a veterinary doctor, veterinary surgeon. But usually we just say I'm a vet. I think that's what you meant to say.
And regarding your question of improving fluency in these social situations, we do have a couple of ideas for you that may help. But before we give them to you, I'd just like to say that try not to stress about it too much. It will get better with practice. Even native speakers find this very difficult. And I've been to a few international conferences and I've been around native speakers in those social situations. And many native speakers also feel very insecure. It's very complicated sometimes to make small talk with people you don't know that well. And it can feel a bit false. And if you're doing it in a language that's not your mother tongue, then of course it's going to be even more stressful. So just try to think that even though the person's a native speaker, they are not necessarily feeling very relaxed. They might be giving you the impression that they're relaxed, but they're probably feeling a little bit stressed and uncomfortable as well. What advice can we give, though, concrete advice, specific advice for Alba to improve her fluency in a conversation like that?
Well, these are things we've mentioned before, but they're very important. It's always worth repeating. Ask questions. If you want to improve your fluency, ask questions. That will require the other speaker to get involved with you. So ask questions, they'll answer you, that will lead to other questions, and practice. Also, use positive body language. Sounds crazy, but kind of moving your body with the words can help you kind of get the meaning out there, or words that you're looking for but you can't quite find. If you kind of make a gesture, sometimes the word pops into your mind as you're making the gesture, I find.
It's not so much what you say as how you say it very often. So included in body language, it's also making good eye contact with the person you're talking to, obviously smiling and being very open. Have open body language. Make sure you're not crossing your legs and having your arms folded. Don't fold your arms. Make sure your body language is open. And as Reza said, ask a lot of questions. Also, it helps to have some specific set phrases or fixed phrases that you can always use in situations to get the person you're speaking to speak more. So if the person says something, you could say something simple like, "Oh, really? Why is that?" So if you're asking short questions so that the person expands on what they've said and gives more information or speaks longer, then that will also help you to be a better communicator. Other expressions you could use: why do you say that, for example? Or why do you think that? And what we call lubricating expressions, lubricante, like things like, "Really? That's amazing. That's interesting. Please tell me more. How did you feel when that happened?" So promote your personality, make sure the person feels comfortable with you by smiling a lot, and ask lots of questions. Those are the main things, I think. Anything you want to add, Reza?
Well, just all listeners need to remember that many social conversations are mostly small talk. I mean, small talk is the main part of many social conversations. So you do need to dedicate some time to it. But above all, don't worry, because it should be fairly basic, natural English. In a social conversation, you don't need to use complicated words or phrases or think, "Oh, I've got to get just the right collocation." If you just stick to the basics and use them correctly, you'll be okay.
And one more thing I just thought of, try to find some common ground if you're meeting someone for the first time. Maybe you travelled to the place in the same way, or maybe you're staying in the same hotel. Or if you're not, find out some information about the hotel the other person's staying in. Try to find something in common with the person you're speaking to, and that relaxes the other person, and it's easier to make small talk when you have something in common with the person you're talking to. Next, we have an email from Paulina from Wanaka, New Zealand. And it's a fairly long email, so Reza, maybe if you'd like to read this or start reading it, but I will interrupt you at particular points to comment on what Paulina has written.
Okay, here are Paulina's words. Hi, Craig and Reza. It's Paulina from Wanaka. Well, we don't quite know how to pronounce it, even though it's in an English-speaking country. This happens in New Zealand because, of course, they have the Maori language. So maybe Wanaka or Wanaka, I'm not quite sure, in New Zealand. I started listening to you on Spotify from my home country when I lived in Maldonado, Uruguay. So Paulina's in New Zealand, but she's actually Uruguayan herself. A year ago, I came to New Zealand and I still listen to you.
Yeah, not many people know that you can listen to us on Spotify. We have mentioned that before, but I'm not sure if you can subscribe to the podcast on Spotify. So if you have a mobile phone and you listen on your phone, even though you have Spotify, it may be easier, better, or more convenient for you to use Google Podcasts. There's a Google Podcast app that you can find in the App Store, in the Google Play Store. Or if you have an iPhone, Apple Podcasts. The app I use for my phone is Overcast, Overcast. It's free, and it has lovely little features like slowing the audio down so that you can understand the English better. In my case, I usually listen quicker. I listen at 1.5 speed so that I can listen to more podcasts. So that's a very good app for your mobile phone. And if you subscribe to our podcast, you immediately know when we've released an episode because it automatically appears on your phone. So we're happy if you're listening on Spotify, but there are other options that may be better for you.
Paulina carries on in her email. With the lockdown of COVID-19, I decided to follow your advice and I started with italki. As you have already said, Kiwi English is a different matter. So kiwi is a fruit, obviously, but it also is an informal way of saying someone or something from New Zealand.
It's the bird, isn't it?
Yeah, the kiwi bird.
Kiwi
That's a
bird.
bird and a fruit, of course. Yeah, it's a bird and a fruit. And sometimes we call a person a Kiwi. If you say she's a Kiwi, it means she's a person from New Zealand. She continues, and I'm very pleased with the teacher I chose.
A satisfied italki customer.
We're happy to hear that because I imagine there aren't so many New Zealand teachers around because it's a smaller population, right?
Right, yeah.
Here I continue with the same practices as in Uruguay. I work in tourism. I commute by bike to work and my activities. And I continue with my favorite hobby, the veggie garden.
The what garden?
The veggie garden.
What's veggie?
So veggie is a short way of saying vegetable. And I think it's particularly common in Australia and New Zealand to use this word veggie. For example, that famous Australian product Vegemite, which is the Australian version of Marmite, that vegetable spread. So her favorite hobby is the veggie garden. And when I ride my bike and when I'm in the garden, I always use it to listen to you. Oh, thanks very much. I really like the idea of being listened to outside while somebody's doing something practical.
In a veggie garden.
That's a really nice idea.
Yeah.
She carries on. The only new thing I started was football. I joined a group of women who play indoor futsal. Futsal, we'll talk about that in a minute. And I would like you to help me with the vocabulary because sometimes I do not understand when I ask for the ball or they tell me what to do.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what futsal was, so I asked Paulina and she explained it to me. It's football sala, which we would probably say in the UK maybe five-a-side or indoor football.
Yeah.
And we started writing some vocabulary for you, Paulina, but then we decided to do a separate episode only on football language expressions and things you can shout or people shout at you while you're playing the game. So we're going to wait a few weeks and we're going to have a specific episode on football vocabulary. We haven't done this in the past because we know not everybody likes football. But hey, listen, if you don't like football, don't listen to that particular episode. But we will do that in the next few weeks.
We'll carry on with Paulina's email. She says, I would also like to know how to refer to a group of people, 25 to 35 years old. If there are women and men, only women, or only men. Because if I say guys, I mean there are men, but not women. She asked with a question mark. Is that true? Folks, pal, lad, I don't know when it's appropriate to use them.
Good question.
Very good question.
In American English, it's very common to use guys whether or not the people you're speaking to are male, female, or a mixture. So you often hear in American English, hey, you guys, or it's really nice seeing you guys. And it could be a group of girls, but it's a way, because we don't have a plural in English of you, like you do in Spanish with ustedes, for example. In American English, it's very common to say guys. Are there any other expressions that would serve the same purpose?
You could say, well, if it was a group of girls, you could say, hi, girls, if it's all women.
Hi, girls, yeah.
And they don't have to be young girls. They could be older as well. Or you lot. Hi, you lot. So by saying the word lot, that's confirming that it's plural. So it's not hi, you, like two. It's you, vosotros, plural. So hi, you lot. Or what about in the south of the United States? What might they say there, Craig?
Y'all. Y''ALL. Y'all listening to me? Y'all listening out there in podcast land? What are y'all doing?
Or folks is another one which is common in all of America, the United States, particularly the South. You go, hello there, folks. You know, it's a very kind of down-to-earth word. Also in Ireland, we say it sometimes, and I think in the rest of the UK as well, but in Ireland, it's very common to say, hi, folks. Would you say that sometimes when you're in England?
Yeah, I would, actually. And I said there's no you plural in English, but very often you would just say you, even though you were speaking to more than one person. Imagine the football team manager is speaking to the team, and the manager says, you are playing terrible today. Then it's obvious he's speaking to the team. He's not speaking to one particular player. He's speaking to all the team because the context makes it obvious that it's plural. So very often in English we'd say you, even though we're not specifying it's you plural, because really with you can't specify it's plural.
So the word guys, I wanted to add one more thing. Craig is totally right. It can be used for a woman as well, but it's not so common for an individual woman though, is it?
No.
You wouldn't say, for me, certainly in British English, but I think even in American English, they don't say, she's a really nice guy. No, you don't hear that. You don't hear it. For an individual woman, it's
not in a singular.
Rare, if not impossible. It sounds a bit weird.
Absolutely.
I'm sure people will start doing it. These things inevitably change because, it may be considered sexist or something like that. But for the minute, we don't use it for an individual woman, I would say.
I agree with that. I think Paulina continues.
She goes on, just as a comment, since you've talked about slang, here you have a lot of slang, as every country has them. Slang words, I guess she means. They are similar to those in Australia for the most part. Okay, similar, but not exactly same. Never make the mistake of calling a Kiwi an Australian. Your life is in danger if you do that. You don't want to mistakenly say that because there's kind of like a love-hate thing going on there.
Or call an Irishman a Scotsman or a Scotsman a Brit.
Be careful, yeah. And with the accent, it's very, very difficult, almost impossible to tell the difference unless you're Australian or a Kiwi, then you know. But even for a native speaker who's British, Irish, American, Scottish, it's Irish, Welsh, we find it really hard to distinguish between Australian
difficult,
and
very
New Zealand.
difficult for us.
But they can. So I'm probably going to embarrass myself by doing an Australian accent instead of a Kiwi one, but something like, here we go, some slang. No worries, mate.
No worries, mate. No worries, mate. I like that one. Next one is all good. All good.
Next one, yeah, nah.
Yeah, nah. So that's yes and no together.
Yeah, nah means I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, nah.
Yeah, nah.
So really it's yes, no, isn't it? Yeah, you reckon? You reckon we use a lot in British English. You reckon means you think, is your opinion. You reckon it's going to rain today? Do you reckon it's going to be a nice day? Do you think?
That's very common in Australia and New Zealand. Sweet as, another really common one, means that's fantastic. That's an American might say that's awesome. Sweet as, mate.
Sweet as, yeah. All these words you can find in the show notes at inglespodcast.com/322 if you don't understand our accent. Oh, I've just spilt my coffee. Bugger. B-U-G-G-E-R. When something goes wrong, you could use that word bugger. Smoko is another one. S-M-O-K-O is a mid-morning break, and obviously from cigarettes, smoking cigarettes, you might hear smoko. It's time for a smoko, a short break.
And very typical down under to talk about the dunny, the toilet, going to the dunny. I suppose it comes from the word dung, a dung heap, I'm imagining, which is animal waste, the dunny. She finishes her email with these words. But for example, they use a lot of the keen word. I think you should say here, Paulina, but for example, they use a lot. No, but for example, they use the word keen a lot, is a better way of saying this. They use the word keen a lot to say they agree to do something. Like in the futsal group, they say, anyone keen to play tonight? Or anyone keen for a drink tonight? Can you explain to me a little more about keen, how to use it?
Yes, we can, Paulina, and thank you for your email. So the word keen, and your example, anyone keen to play tonight? There's an is missing at the beginning of that. Is anyone keen to play tonight? Of course, in informal English, you might omit or not say some words. And the expression is to be keen to do something. So you conjugate, you use keen with the verb to be. For example, I'm keen to go traveling again. I really want to go traveling again, and I'm looking forward to when I can. So I'm enthusiastic. I'm keen to go traveling again. What are you keen to be doing soon?
I'm keen to go on a holiday very soon.
It's another way to say, does anyone fancy playing tonight? Does anyone want to play? Is anyone keen to play tonight? Very similar meanings.
Craig mentioned that keen goes with an infinitive. It can also go with on. You can be keen on something. I could say to you, are you keen on sport?
Not really. I'm keen on podcasting.
So keen plus on. Don't confuse the preposition with about. About goes with enthusiastic. You're enthusiastic about something, but you're keen on something.
That's when it's a noun. So you can be keen on photography, keen on podcasting, keen on traveling, keen on reading, keen on books, etc. If you use a verb, make sure it's a gerund. I'm keen on traveling. I'm keen on taking photos. I'm keen on snowboarding. So when it's a verb, make sure it's an ing.
Whenever we use it as a negative, like I'm not keen on, for example, ginger biscuits, yeah, although that's just an example.
I thought you like. It's me who's not keen on ginger biscuits.
It's Craig
Yeah.
who isn't keen on ginger biscuits.
You quite like them, don't you?
Yeah, imagine Craig said, I'm not keen on ginger biscuits. If he wants to be more polite or just simply more British, he could say, I'm not very keen on ginger biscuits, or I'm not too keen. It's very common to add very or too before the word keen when it's negative. I'm not too keen is a polite way of saying, I don't really like it.
Or maybe even I hate it with
Yeah.
the typical British politeness. Let me ask you this, Reza. Do you like rap music?
I'm not very keen on rap music.
I know you're not. You're not keen on it at all, are you?
No, to be honest.
What subjects were you keen on at school, or what subjects were you not keen on?
I was keen on history, geography, music, and languages, but I wasn't very keen on mathematics and the sciences.
Me neither. Exactly the same. But I wasn't keen on music because my music teacher told me I had a terrible voice, which was true. But I wasn't keen on the sciences, and I wasn't keen on maths either.
Well, you've got a very nice spoken voice. I haven't heard you sing much, though.
I sing on the podcast from time to time.
Yeah, okay, yeah, maybe your music teacher was right on that. Speaking fine, but maybe not.
And you have a good ear for music, so you would know. Reza's a very keen podcaster, and he's a keen wine and food connoisseur.
Oh, Craig calls me a connoisseur, but I think he's exaggerating.
No, I'm not.
A connoisseur is someone who really knows what they're talking about back. I wouldn't call myself a connoisseur, but I would call myself an enthusiast. So this word enthusiastic, it can be turned into a noun to describe a person. If you are an enthusiast, it means you're very enthusiastic about something. You're very keen on something. That's true, I am.
So we said before with keen on, you can use that with a noun or a gerund. I'm keen on travelling. I'm keen on wine. I'm keen on cheese. Where you can also use keen with the infinitive. You can be keen to do something. So as we mentioned before, both of us, Reza and I, are keen to start travelling again.
And are you keen to record more podcasts?
I am. I'm very keen to record more podcasts.
Craig, there is another meaning of keen. If I said to you, a lawyer needs a keen mind, which other professions need a keen mind? What do I mean by keen in that sentence?
You mean a sharp mind? A mind that's very quick to solve problems or to think of solutions? A surgeon, for example, would need a keen mind. Anybody in the medical profession who's treating people for health reasons would need a keen mind.
So Paulina, who's a keen student, she improves her English in her spare time with this podcast because she's very keen, or she's very enthusiastic or eager. Craig, can you think of any typical collocations, groupings of words which go with the word keen a lot?
Well, you can take a keen interest in something, which means you're very interested in it. For example, recently, because of the COVID-19 crisis, many people have been taking a keen interest in the news. They've been taking a keen interest in health, for example, because it's really important at the moment to take a keen interest in those kind of things.
Another common collocation is to keep a keen eye out for something. If you keep a keen eye out for something, that means you're waiting and watching to see if it happens. For example, many people want to travel to certain countries at the moment and they can't because of travel restrictions. They're probably keeping a keen eye out for news of the changing travel restrictions. So the watching, waiting to see what happens.
A person can also have a keen sense of smell or a keen sense of taste, which means a very refined sense of smell or taste. For example, in my opinion, Reza has a very keen sense of taste. When we eat food, he's very aware of the different spices, the ingredients, what's inside the food. So his sense of taste is very keen, it's very sharp.
And I would say that Craig has a very keen insight into the world of technology. He knows a lot more about IT than me. He has a keen insight. An insight is a good idea about what's happening. A keen insight into IT.
Well, let's say I'm an enthusiast, as you are with wine. So I'm interested in it. I'm enthusiastic about it, but I don't necessarily know very much. We can use prepositions with keen, eager, and enthusiastic, but are they interchangeable, those words? Do you think we can use those pretty much for the same meaning? Is there a difference?
More or less, but what is not interchangeable is the use of prepositions. That's where students often make mistakes. So, as we said earlier, you're keen on something, but you're enthusiastic about something. But for me, the meaning is more or less the same. For example, if I said to you, she's keen on hockey. Well, I could say she's enthusiastic about hockey. It's the same meaning, but get the preposition right. Keen on, enthusiastic about.
Are you enthusiastic about having lunch today?
I am. I'm always keen on having lunch with Craig.
Don't forget to use those gerunds after your prepositions. So enthusiastic about having. It's always a gerund after a preposition.
The word eager, we haven't spoken so much about that yet. E-A-G-E-R, eager. Not eagle, the bird, which sometimes foreigners think if they don't know English is saying, I'm eagle, or you're a bird? No, not an eagle, eager. It doesn't go with a preposition. So you cannot say she's eager plus on or she's eager about. No preposition with eager. So that's another thing you have to look out for.
We're always eager to podcast, aren't we?
We are. I'm always eager to have the lunch afterwards. Did you hear there I used the word to? So after eager, you don't use a preposition, but you can use an infinitive, the same as keen. For example, I could say we were keen to start our journey. Or I could say we were eager to start our journey. So you can have an infinitive with eager, but no preposition. And then just to complicate your life, You can't have an infinitive with enthusiastic.
Why is life so difficult, Reza?
So you cannot say, we were enthusiastic plus to start. No, we don't say that. So keen to start or eager to start.
And of course, those three words, eager, keen, and enthusiastic, also have nouns. The noun of keen is keenness, eager, the same, eagerness, and enthusiastic, enthusiasm. And some examples, his eagerness to join the team is impressive. I love his enthusiasm for life. And Reza has expressed his keenness to teach more young students.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah, that's the rumor anyway. Remember, you can see these words in the show notes at inglespodcast.com/312. No, 322, sorry. 322.
Just to wrap up talking about those words, we've already given you some collocations with keen. When we say a collocation, that means the words tend to go together. So, for example, a keen interest in something. It is not typical to say eager interest or enthusiastic interest. We don't say that. The collocation is a keen interest. There are also collocations for eager and enthusiastic. For example, an eager beaver. What's that, Craig? An eager beaver.
A beaver is it castor or castor?
It is castor, yeah.
Castor in Spanish. So obviously beavers work very hard, don't they? They're always working, they're building their
dams. Oh, I said a bad word.
They're building their dams in the river, they're collecting twigs and leaves and mud and making things. So if you're an eager beaver, then you're very enthusiastic to do something. You want to work, you're very active, you're moving around a lot, you're doing things. You're an eager beaver, which is definitely not me when I first wake up.
Craig, would you say that you are eager to please?
It depends who I'm pleasing.
Oh, I'm not sure I want to ask questions about that. And who and in what situation? In this situation, would you have your clothes on? Or?
It depends who I'm pleasing and what I need to do to please. But yeah, generally, I think I'm eager to please. I think, generally speaking, I like people to like me, so I'm eager to please. What about you?
Yeah, I just before we drop this, Craig, I'm curious to know that whenever, just say you happen to be in a situation with someone without any clothes on, are you more eager to please or to be pleased?
I'm an eager beaver in that situation. I'm an eager beaver. I think now the listeners have a horrible image and picture in their head, so let's move on. Eager for news about something. You can be keen to get news or enthusiastic to hear news, so you're eager for news. I'm eager for news of your last trip, for example.
And the last two we have are opposites. And the first one is very British. If you are less than enthusiastic about something, well, it means what it says. You are not enthusiastic. You're less than enthusiastic. But it's a very understated, very British way of saying you really don't like it at all. But you're not going to say that. You're going to say, I'm less than enthusiastic about this. Means you really don't like it at all. What would the opposite be?
Well, the opposite, if you have burning enthusiasm, to burn, your enthusiasm is burning about something, then you're very, very enthusiastic. So Reza started podcasting this morning with burning enthusiasm. He was eager to get going and start podcasting.
Okay, well, that's all we've got for you in this episode. I hope you've kept your enthusiasm. I hope we haven't bored you with all our nonsense. I hope you're still keen to learn English. So why don't you practice? Why don't you send us a voice message? Get recording on audio now, your voice, and send it to speakpipe.com/Inglespodcast.
We are very eager to hear from you. You can also contact us by email to reach me. Send it to Craig, Craig, at inglespodcast.com. And to reach Reza, send it to belfastreza@gmail.com. And you can also see courses on the Mansion Ingles store. The address for that is store.mansioningles.net.
As ever, thanks to all of you who are helping us. You're supporting this podcast through Patreon. That's patreon.com/English podcast. And those people, by donating as little as $1 a month, they get instant access to recent transcriptions, and that money helps us to pay to get the transcriptions done. So thank you very much to all of you who help us. Unfortunately, we can't list everybody's name because we don't have time, but we can mention the most recent new sponsors.
Yes, we've had 4 so far this month. They are Antonio Tarsis, thank you. Quiero Ser Portero is another lovely Patreon supporter. Thank you very much, Quiero. Rafa Blasco and Ana Robles. If you would like to join these wonderful people for as little as $1 per month, you get instant access to recent transcriptions. Go to patreon.com/Ingles podcast.
Craig, what have we got coming up in next week's episode?
Well, I'm very enthusiastic about next week's topic. It's using Google to improve your English. I'm sure you've heard of Google. They have lots of services and ways that you can exploit Google to make your English better. So I'm looking forward to doing that episode with Reza. I'm very eager to get podcasting next time. Until next week, it's goodbye from me.
And it's bye-bye from me.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.